If you want to produce small numbers of fairly large components, then using sand molds to cast them is an ideal way to do it. It is at the moment the best method for metals which melt at high temperatures. But there are disadvantages. A new mold has to be made for each casting, and if you want to make 500 or more, the technique is quite uneconomic, particularly for low melting metals. There's often a need to turn out a huge number of small, light castings with great accuracy, and so good a surface that only a little finishing needs to be done to make them perfect. Here, die casting is the answer. Metals with a relatively low melting point are used in die casting, and the molds are used over and over again. The aim is to produce castings with a high degree of accuracy, a good surface finish, and to get as many components from one set of dies as possible. Die casting is an excellent technique for making things like transmission cases, carburetor parts, and certain types of car wheels. The simplest way of die casting is to pour the metal from a ladle and let it fill the die under gravity. Here they're using gravity die casting to produce high-performance wheels for racing bikes from magnesium. The mold, we call it the die, is made from a fine-grained cast iron, and it consists of two halves. First, a sand core is fitted to the center of the bottom half, and the whole area is blown clean with compressed air. The two halves of the die are then dusted with a fine white refractory powder. In this case is a mixture of French chalk and boracic powder. This helps to prevent the metal chilling prematurely and stops it sticking to the dies, lessening any erosive action which the molten magnesium might produce on the surface of the die. The three sides of the bottom die are locked into position, and the two halves are joined. They're locked firmly together, and the whole die is tipped at an angle, ready to receive the molten metal. At this particular foundry, they're heating the magnesium to 790 degrees centigrade in these gas-fired furnaces. Magnesium melts willingly at this temperature, but if mixed with oxygen from the air in these conditions, it can also burn explosively. To prevent this happening, the metal is kept under a flux in the furnace so that it won't come into contact with oxygen in the air. Around the die is a ring of gas burners, which not only help the molten magnesium to flow smoothly into the die, but also maintain the correct thermal gradients during the cooling period, ensuring the metal doesn't solidify before it fills the cavity. While the metal's being poured, sulfur powder is dusted over the parts of the die where it'll flow. As the metal runs, the heat causes the sulfur to combine with the oxygen in the air, creating sulfur dioxide gas. This is much heavier than air and provides an inert gas blanket for the molten magnesium. This keeps the metal surface clean and shiny and prevents it from catching fire.